games this year. He's been pretty consistent. Even in that Lions game, you saw a bunch of plays where you were like, this will work down the line. I didn't feel like we saw that today.
I think you can go even further and say that this isn't really anything different than what we've seen the last couple weeks, in my opinion. I mean, especially last week, and you go to the Saints game, that was a 1-5 team that was more 1-5 than this Baltimore Ravens team. I mean, this Ravens team is very well coached under John Harbaugh. This is about like what, near two decades worth of coaching experience compared to Ben Johnson's 7th game. Yeah. I mean, you're starting to see the cracks there, and it's not even cracks as much as he just has to find ways to get back on the board when you're down, 16-6. They started the game with some rollouts. I didn't understand why they kind of got away from that a little bit too, trying to get teams to over pursue, especially with Colson Loveland, trying to get him back in the game, kind of get Caleb in rhythm. We've heard so many times throughout the week about this team where Caleb has said, hey, we get that first down, we're good. We get that first down, we get that rhythm. It just seemed like they struggled to get that first down, and the biggest difference was the Saints were they weren't playing the Saints today. They were playing a Ravens team where back is against the wall, and they were playing for their lives.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley now 2-0 against the Bears. I want to remind everyone that's watching us right now, especially on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment, #AfterTheWhistle, and we will be reading your comments throughout the show. But let's talk more about Caleb Williams. Right, I felt like he couldn't capitalize on certain moments throughout the day. The offense got off to a pretty decent start, but couldn't keep that momentum going. I felt like when I was watching sometimes, I needed this offense to wake up. Jim, I feel like Caleb Williams, he needs to play better.
Yeah, he does. They were good on third down conversions, but again, it's how you finish. I don't think it was so much about the game plan. You drive down, and then even before the half, when Caleb took the intentional grounding, that took them out of field goal range, where Santos, I forget what it was, a 58-yarder. Yeah. Granted, it's a long field goal, but you don't get that intentional grounding penalty. Potentially, you go into the half with points on the board. And that's where I thought Caleb failed. Even the last score, what they could have had to DJ Moore, just kind of very chaotic, wasn't very organized, and that's where Caleb's got to take the reins. And as you mentioned, Tina, and I think Pat did as well, he missed some throws today. Yeah. There's some throws that he's got to make where he's just off, he's a little high, his feet aren't right, and sometimes he presses a little bit, and he's just off on his throws. He needs to be more accurate. I think overall the stats look good, but like what Pat insinuated, it's those key moments when they're kind of gotta-have-it moments in the game. And then, of course, the penalties. The Bears had over 11 penalties. One of the big ones that probably nobody's going to bring up is the illegal formation on punt. Yep. Torrey Taylor had pinned the Baltimore Ravens back to the 1-yard line, and the Bears had an illegal formation, and that changes everything. Baltimore now would have been in a coming-out drill, which is very tough to execute in the NFL. That penalty alone put them in, then they had to repunt. It put them in much better favorable position where they could get out of harm's way.
No, 100%. I think that there are moments where your team needs to pick the quarterback up, and he has a down game. That was last week. You saw that versus the Saints. The team picked up Caleb in a bad game, run game, got itself going. You were moving down the field. There's also moments when you, especially when you're the number 1 overall pick, where you got to pick the team up. And today, listen, the penalties are going to be a massive part of this. When you end up messing up some of those penalties, when you end up putting yourself behind the 8 ball yet again, it's always going to hurt you in those situations. But the biggest thing out of all of this is there were moments there where Caleb Williams has to make that throw, has to keep this drive going, and we didn't see him do that today. I think that, listen, a couple of down games in a row, you start to look at the quarterback a little bit sideways and say, okay, you got to fix some of your issues. But it's not a be done with Caleb. It's just talk about this game right here. Those are the moments you have to get, and that if you don't get them, you don't get opportunities to get them back all the time.
Yeah, when you talk about Caleb, I give a little bit of a reprieve here because I don't think Theo Benedict had a very good game in pass protection today. I think he struggled a little bit. And I think you saw that pressure just kind of revert Caleb back to what we saw last week a little bit, where he was scrambling around, trying to make a play, kind of going backwards, dipping back out of the pocket. We saw him take off a little bit more, that run, the end of the first half where he got all the way into the Ravens territory, maybe set up a field goal look there before the intentional grounding. That's kind of more what we want to see, especially in the decision-making process. But you're starting to see the last couple weeks where just the throws need to come out sooner, where you have to make a decision sooner. And I know the pass protection is not going to be there every single week, and it's going to be up and down, especially when you got new guys at left tackle. You got guys like Theo who are just getting more used to starting in the NFL too. But yeah, the decision making has to be better. And I think especially going forward where you got two defenses where you can take advantage of that, it's going to be a test the next couple of weeks to see where he's really at with that decision making process.
Let's talk more overall about the penalties because we're 7 games into the season now. I mean, we knew this was going to be an issue, right? During the preseason and training camp, total of 11 penalties today. Jim, I mean, we hear it all the time, right? It kills the momentum of the drive. It stalls the drives, but come on. What can this team do to really play clean?
It cost them points today.
Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah.
Tina. It cost them points. That intentional grounding before the half was a big penalty. You know, the punt illegal formation was a big penalty. It's not so much. You can go to the Super Bowl and lead the league in penalties. Literally, you can. I know numerous teams that have done it because you're taking it right to the line. But it's when you get those penalties. And for the Bears, when they were getting their penalties, it's when their offense was getting into the red zone. Like you said, Caleb makes a really good scramble to put them in field goal range and then makes kind of the ultimate no-no at that point and has the intentional grounding. You don't want it to even be close. That's like a no sack, nothing like bad like can happen in that situation. And that's where he's got to be better. In those big moments of the game where it is crucial for your team to cash in, the Bears repeatedly have shot themselves in the foot, and just 11 over 10 penalties is too much overall. They got to clean it up.
Yeah, it's the thing that I think is holding this team back from, I talked about it last week, right? A team that when they finally start to play clean, they're going to become a actual dangerous football team offensively. How many times have we seen them in 2nd and 15, 3rd and 15 situations? How many times have we seen them where you're in great running position? Heck, this game right here, you're at 3rd and 1, getting ready to possibly get a first down, and you're in the red zone. And Colston Loveland false start takes you out of that play. And it changes now what the play call is, what Ben Johnson is going to be able to call there. And I think what we saw, especially today, but throughout this season, is it changes how cohesive and how consistent the play calling comes in. And all of that, right? Last week we're talking about how comfortable that made DeAndre Swift and got this run game going. This week we're talking about how it's proven to be a detriment to the team. And so I think that's one thing that we've talked about it since day one of training camp. It's going to be a tough thing to fix. Teams don't just magically get better at things like this.
Is it more on the coaching staff or the play? Like, who's to blame for these penalties? Because it's week after week. We keep talking about them, man.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of rotating people and rotating players in and out of the starting lineup, too. I mean, there's a lot of players that are coming in and out, like Luther Bird, Nosey. Like, you talk about the mouths to feed this week. Those are like guys that are still getting used to playing with each other and that kind of stuff. And a lot of the things that I was talking about with the offensive line, especially last week, after the win of the Saints in the locker room, I was asking Jonah Jackson about it, and he was like, yeah, like, this is an example of what happens when we can put it all together. We just have to do it consistently. You know, we're still learning how to play with each other. We're still learning how to do all these things. And there's some stuff here and there. And now there's some things like that false start against Joe Tooney in the 4th quarter. I really don't know if
that was questionable at best.
I was going to say there's some
insane.
It's questionable at best, but I mean you have to look at those where you can say, well, you can't put it all on the refs, especially in those moments where there's a lot of stuff just that's not clicking together. I think this is on the coaching staff, and frankly, I'm really intrigued to see what Ben Johnson does in the next couple weeks, especially when this stretch of games is going to really tell you whether or not this team is going to be in the playoff run or not.
Yeah, I want to read some viewer comments right here. Maddie Fochese, red zone offense has got to be better. You jump up 14-0. That changes what Baltimore had to do. Let's talk about the Bears in the red zone because, I mean, obviously it's been a struggle for this team. Jim, I want to start with you. Why can't this team put together drives that end in a touchdown in the red zone?
Yeah, like that. Well, the first one really annoyed me because it ended in a sack and they had to settle for a field goal. And then the second drive, I believe. Hold on, let me get my notes here. Yeah,
when the
glasses
second drive, on, it's serious.
Caleb, he missed a throw. If he was high on the throw, at that moment he's got to be more accurate with his target. And that's the up and down we're talking about. When you're playing against a team, and granted, Baltimore has not been great this year, but you're on the road. The thing is to get them down. The Bears wanted to get their run game out of it. You know, there's no Lamar Jackson. You got Snoop Huntley in there, and the Bears were never able to capitalize early in those red zone opportunities to play with a lead. The lead wasn't big enough. It was only a 6-point lead early in the game because you're settling for field goals because you shot yourself in the foot twice in the red zone. So you mentioned how do you get better at it? It's got to be a point of emphasis. And Tina, typically what coaches do is when we do a red zone period, say Thursday is a red zone period, you're going to tack on maybe an extra 5 to 10 minutes and say, hey, we are going to work specifically and dedicate more time on red zone so that we're better to capitalize on it here in the near future. So it's really a point of emphasis is what the approach will be.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben Johnson's talked to us a ton. He said, we understand it. It's something we're trying to emphasize every single week in practice. It's something that's not making its way onto the field. I don't know if it's because of how Caleb's cadence is with some of the penalties that we're seeing, but some of it is truly just, coasting level one today. That's just discipline. That's really all it comes down to. You know what the snap count is. You know when the team needs to run. You know how important this play is to keep this drive alive. And I think today was a tale of both. We got to talk about the penalties. It's a major storyline. It's been a major storyline all year. But I love how Jim pointed it out. There was still an opportunity for you. I believe that was the Roma Dunze coming across and over the middle there. And
definitely,
Caleb, that's your throw. That's a throw I've seen you make a million times. That's a throw you got to hit in that moment. The thing that we're seeing, and it almost feels like, is when you're getting in the red zone as of recently, there's a lot more pressing going on, and you're kind of tensing up. I get it. Those lanes are closer. The game is happening quicker. But we're not talking about Caleb Williams making tight window throws in the back of the end zone that are 50-50 balls. That's an easy pass to Rome that he should be able to make.
I think there's a lot of the parts of this offense, too, that when they get there, there's really nothing that they're doing that I've seen that's helping out their quarterback, that's kind of putting them in a position to say, okay, here's a play where it's like, this is your bread and butter, this is your gimme, this is something that's worked. And I don't think we've established what that might be so far with this Bears team. And I think that's up to Ben Johnson, the offensive coaching staff, to find something like, hey, like, this has worked. Like, if there's none else, this is our best play on 3rd and goal from the 5. This is the thing that we're going to keep going back to. We've seen a lot of teams do that. We've seen the Chiefs do that as a real successful team with some of those motions of getting guys open on out routes and that kind of stuff with quick receivers. And we know that's part of their bread and butter, to utilize the athleticism they have. And the Bears have a lot of different weapons. I think it's time to start utilizing that, especially when you get into the red zone. The tight end is something that we haven't seen utilized in the red zone a lot. I know we've seen Cole Kmet score against the Dallas Cowboys, but other than that, we
haven't seen Cole Kmet score.
we haven't seen Cole Kmet score outside of that game. So I think we're starting to see, like, this staff needs to just ease into what you have. There's a lot that they have. They just got to go find and use it. And I know that's part of the adjustment. That's part of having a new coaching staff and having a new team, kind of getting under your feet what you have. But it's game 7 going into game 8 the next week, and it's about time that they figure this out.
If I can add something to that, because I think you made a really good point there. You know, when you're doing all those motions and shifts, all that is window dressing. And as you alluded to, the Chiefs go back and they run the same stuff, but it's a lot of window dressing. And so you want the shifts, the motions, and it really distorts the defense, and they're trying to sort it out. And you have to use that as a weapon in your offense. And as Pat alluded to, when you're rolling in different personnel groupings and guys aren't focused and they're undisciplined and they're not paying attention to the snap count, that's where it becomes a problem, because those plays should be just rote memory. What does Mike Tomlin always say? Pro players make routine plays routinely. Yep. Some of these are routine plays that they just need to make. When you got guys wide open, that's a routine. That you're a professional. You got to be able to play pitch and catch at that point. And then it just shocks you sometimes. Like here, Caleb makes, or DJ Moore makes that one-handed catch. Yeah. That's not a routine play.
No.
You know, but yet they make it look routine. But the easy stuff is hard for them to do. But the hard stuff is easy for them to do sometimes. It's crazy.
All right, Bears fall to the Ravens 30-16. First time this season where they did not score 21 or more points. We need to take a break here on After the Whistle. Coming up next, we've got a segment called Trick or Treat, because guess what? Halloween is around the corner there. And we see your viewer comments. We're going to talk about special teams right after the break, and as well as hear from Ben Johnson later on in the show as well. Stay with us. All right, back here on After the Whistle, former Bears QB Jim Miller, Tina Nguyen, Pat the Designer, and Chris Krasinski here with you. Let's read some viewer comments. Steven Moranzani said, is it time to go back to Jake Moody? Feel like he would have made the kick at the end of the first half. Cairo Santos obviously doesn't have enough leg there. He missed the 58-yard field goal there. Special teams seems like a noticeable difference in this game today. Richard Hightower not happy with his performance. Jim, what did you think of the special teams unit today?
Yeah, it was spotty, this game. Certainly, like I said, Caleb didn't do Santos any favors with the intentional grounding. I think we've seen more over 50-yard field goals made in any season so far. Guys have been banging them. But with Santos and what he was dealing with his thigh, it's questionable for him. He gave it the good old man's try. I mentioned the penalty, the illegal formation. Yeah. That was a killer. Man, they would have had the Baltimore Ravens backed up on the one. And I don't think they had any confidence in Snoop Hundley throwing him out of danger there. There would have been probably 3 straight runs, and the Bears probably would have had the ball back because Baltimore would have had to punt. That was a huge special teams gaffe with the illegal formation. That field position is everything, and that was a real killer at that point in the game.
Only thing I'd add to the conversation on the kick itself is, listen, with Jake Moody, I got to see him make the kicks, right? Yeah. Clearly, I think it's tougher now because Cairo has missed the kick. So there's a conversation that opens that door because Moody has been locked in. But, 58 plus is where Jake Moody struggled in San Francisco. 58 plus is where Jake Moody struggled last season, struggled in the first game of the year. It's why he ended up getting cut from the team. So my biggest thing has been I haven't seen Jake make a kick that Cairo can't make, but today would have been a good opportunity to see him attempt to make a kick that Cairo can't make.
I think it's difficult to have that conversation just a little bit because you got to consider that you can't just go back and forth anymore. That if you call up Jake Moody from the practice squad one more time, he has to be on the active 100%. Roster for the rest of the season, or he's not on the roster at all. Like you only get a certain amount of call-ups, and I think there's some decisions to be made there, especially since he's 8 for 9. I mean, yeah, that's really good, but those are long field goals, like you mentioned, Pat. Like there's a reason why he got cut. Yeah. And I think when you look at that reason, you kind of give him those comfortable field goals and that kind of stuff, or the ranges he was able to make it from the last couple games. But it's that decision of like, well, what if Cairo just can't go? So you need to have this guy, and I think then that starts to open up the conversation of, does Cairo go on injured reserve, and then you put Jake Moody up? I think it's just difficult. It's not something you can just say, oh, hey, switch him out like it's your fantasy football team. But also, there's also more decisions to be made too, like Austin Booker. He's got to get activated next week, or he's done for the season type deal. So those are things that the Bears are going to look at hard, I think, especially in the next couple weeks.
All right, before we get to our trick or treat segment, let's talk about this Bears defense. Secondary struggle today, obviously no Kyler Gordon, but you also don't have Tyreek Stevenson, Jalen Johnson. I mean, how much of an impact did that have for Dennis Allen in his game plan today, Jim?
Well, I think everything was geared to stop the run. I don't think Baltimore, they elected to go with Tyler Huntley, and the guy's got a losing record as a starter. This was not going to be a pass game by any stretch of the imagination, and they were well under 200 yards passing. So everything was geared up to stop the run. And defensively, it's a lot of RPO stuff that Baltimore was running. So it becomes assignment football. And, really the late big run by Mitchell of Baltimore kind of summed it up. Yeah. The end man on the line of the defensive line of scrimmage for the Bears got caught in no man's land. You have a choice. You got to double play it. It's assignment football. If you go upfield, that'll deter the quarterback from handing the ball off to the running back. But it was undisciplinedness, and it led to some gap issues by the Chicago Bears defense all game. And then, of course, you got Tyler Huntley running with the ball as well. If you're going to do what we call spy technique, the guy's got to be on him. Like, that's his assignment. That was there was a blown assignment on a couple of plays, and that's what it was. It was assignment football, and they had some gap integrity issues in stopping the run because Baltimore, under no circumstances, did they want Snoop Hundley to get into a passing battle with Caleb. The Bears' early failures to score only boded well for the Baltimore Ravens game plan to stick with our run for the entire 60 minutes, and the Bears had too many blown assignments defensively.
Yeah, and to Jim's point, I think the biggest thing for me with all of this is your defensive line kind of went back to sleep. I get it. You had some guys banged up. DeMarcus Robinson ended up getting banged up, I think, first play of the game on that kickoff, right? You end up losing Javon Dexter for a little bit of time in there, and Shamar Turner goes out as well. But Montez Sweat, this was a game you needed to show up in. This is a game that I really wanted to see him come out and ball out and get to the quarterback. Did early on, that first drive, you kind of saw him where I don't know how Snoop Huntley held on to the football in that situation. But outside of that, you really didn't see a ton of pressure. And it just opened things up for him in passing lanes down the field. We didn't see a ton of I'm dotting you up, I'm throwing darts right past the DBs. We saw wide open receivers down the field on a pretty consistent basis that seemed like, how did you just get that open in that situation? He's a good enough quarterback to hit the easy layups, and I think that's the problem that this Bears team showed today. When you allow him to stand back there and have time, he can be a good quarterback.
I think this also goes a little bit back to coaching, too. We talked about this. Coaching on the Ravens side of things, where Tyler Huntley's been a Raven for a long time. And he's played also in different teams and different styles.
And they just keep bringing him back.
They just keep bringing him back. I mean, the guy was a Pro Bowler in 2022. And I know, Jim, you mentioned he's got a losing record as a starting quarterback. But I feel like when you have a guy like this where you know his limitations, how good he's going to be, what he can do, you scheme him in a position where he can be successful. And I think that dink and dunk passing offense that they had today just kind of moved the ball. I feel like it was an extension of the run game almost, where they took advantage of the soft spots where they had them, and they just opened up running lanes when they were there. And I mean, you can't keep Derrick Henry down for too long. I thought the Bears did a pretty good job kind of bottling up. No real explosive runs. Yeah, they got around the side for those two touchdowns. And I know that run to Mitchell at the end of the game was kind of a explanatory of how things broke down, especially on assignment defenses and that kind of stuff. But someone I wanted to see a little bit more from today was Dio Dangbo too. I mean, you talk about giving a guy a lot of money to be a reason the run defense improves, and you just didn't see enough of him today. We've seen him at different parts of the season so far, and you've seen him made plays, but this is one where it's like, hey, if Montez, if you're the guy we're paying a lot of money, this is it's 1A, Dio is 1B. We wanted to see those two guys help collapse, play assignment correct football, and help stop the run.
All right, let's get to our segment here called Trick or Treat, because Halloween less than a week away. We're going to do it with their teams in the NFC North. Who's for real and who is tricking us? Who's fooling us? But first, let's take a look at the standings here. The Packers 4-1-1. The Lions 5-2. Bears now 4-3. And then the Vikings are 3-4. As we start with the Packers here, Jim, I'll start with you. Trick or treat for the Green Bay Packers?
They are a treat. They are a good team, but they need to play with a lead. Everybody thinks they got a good run defense. They do not. So do not fall behind the Green Bay Packers, but they're for real.
Okay.
I'm going to go trick on the Packers. I've seen them in some close games versus teams that a Packers team where it feels like we're kind of putting them should be able to put away. Last week versus Arizona, a really close game versus Jacoby Brissett. You mentioned the run defense. They were getting gashed the entire time, and Brissett using his legs to extend plays. Like, who would have thought we'd be having that conversation? So I'm going to go trick on the Green Bay Packers. Sure. I feel like what we've seen is a little bit of trickeration early on.
Okay, Chris?
I don't know. I wish I could tell you, wish I could say trick or treat, but I mean, you got a good team.
You got to pick one.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Is that a Charlie Brown rock?
Yeah, I know.
But here, what? You got to pick one.
Yeah, I lean more towards treat just because they are a good football team. The sum of their parts means they're a good team. They're 4-1-1 for a reason. They got 4 wins. But sometimes I look at that team and I'm like, the guy that you're paying the most money to on that team and the guy that you're paying the second most amount of money to in that team are two very completely different things.
Yeah.
So you got Micah Parsons being the guy who's a big reason why that defense is so good, but then the quarterback's getting paid $55 million a year, and he's not at the top of the he's not at the top of the stats and the leaderboards. He's not the guy that you're paying that much money.
He's fourth lowest in interceptions, and they score 28 points a game. They want to play with the lead. That way they can crank up Micah Parsons. That's their whole game plan. And they're offensively, I believe they're top 4 in the league.
So
they're a good offense.
2 treats for Green Bay and 1 trick for Green Bay. Up next, the Lions are 5-2. Trick or treat, Jim?
They're a treat. That team's for real. They compete. That whole roster is full of competitors. Look what they did with their secondary, just decimated. And Dan Campbell, he likes gets them cranked up like wind-up dolls, man. They're like when Brian Branch got suspended. Hey, we got to win this for our brother, and they responded in kind. That team can score a boatload of points, and they playing with a lot of a chip on their shoulder defensively. They're not as good as what they need to be, but guys are filling in, stepping up, and playing well, and they'll get those starters back defensively. That team's for real.
Yeah, that's a treat. That's what do they say when you go to the house that gives the full-size Snicker bars? I mean, that's what the Lions are right now. I mean, they've been a team that has continued to look exactly at times like they did last year. Their run game's a little bit different here, more focused on Gibbs than it is on Montgomery, and I think that may affect them differently towards the end of the season. But no matter what, I think you've got this defense playing back at a much more competitive level with guys being healthy this year. And offensively, Jared Goff, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he just have a game where he completed 89% of his passes or something? That's a treat. That's one I want to be a part of.
Yeah, if you want to continue the Halloween analogies, I like to think of them as that, the first game against the Packers where they had that stinker at Lambeau. It's kind of like the first couple houses you go to and you put your hand in there and it's like, Tootsie Roll. You're like, that's a bummer. But
fruit snack.
Wait, yeah. I like Tootsie Rolls. Okay.
Okay, we'll get back to that later. But this is also the team that later on in the evening, when you go to some of those other houses, they're trying to get rid of that candy, where they get you the king size bar, that big Reese's, where you're like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. This is a treat. That team is always going to be a treat, and they're set up to be a treat for the next couple years too.
All right, up next, the Vikings, 3-4, coming off of a blowout loss to the Chargers. Kevin O'Connell said he didn't do a good job of preparing his team. Jim, trick or treat with the Vikings?
They are a trick. They're like a fraudulent candy bar. I mean, I think when they get J.J. McCarthy back, they're actually going to be worse on offense. They've lost a ton of their offensive linemen. Darisaw and Brian O'Neill, their tackles. They lead the league in giving up sacks right now, and I don't think J.J. McCarthy coming back. They really just wanted the young buck to rest because things were happening too fast for him. Yeah. And now that he is a little bit healthier and Wentz is beat up, they're going to have to go back to J.J. McCarthy. But that team is fraudulent. They are a trick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with Jim on this one. It's a trick. I mean, I'm not even going to lie to you. I think when you talk about fake candy, I don't even know if there was candy in the bowl with J.J. McCarthy. I think literally they saw 2 games and they were like, hey, kid, isn't your ankle hurt? Go sit down for a little while. Your ankle's going to be hurt for a few weeks. Watch what we got going on here. I think it's a full-on trick. And I think what's even worse is when you figured out what the trick was, it was Carson Wentz. That puts you in an even worse situation there.
I mean, if you continuing Halloween analogies, if you have that Tootsie Roll where you're like, oh, this is good chocolate,
you
but
really
you
got
keep
beef with Tootsie Roll.
You keep chewing.
I love
and
Tootsie
chewing.
Rolls. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like the more that we chewed on this Minnesota team, like Jim is saying, like they have their mistakes and their issues are really starting to come to the forefront here, and you can't just stop chewing on it because your offensive line is hurt. You can't. It's like, I just got to take it out of your mouth and be like, all right, we're moving on to something else. But get that Detroit Lions big candy bar back in there too. But no, this is a team that's gotten so banged up, that's gotten hurt. We talked about the Bears getting hurt too and banged up too, but the Vikings are so banged up to a point. One of my really good friends is a Vikings fan will always say every week, I don't think we got it this week. I was like, oh, where's that pessimism coming from? But but I think it's part of it is because of that. It's because there's just we keep going back to that week 1 loss on Monday Night Football. And
that hurts right now.
It hurts, but that's Kevin O'Connell coaching in his his 3rd, 4th season where Ben Johnson was in game 1. And I mean, if you play that game now, it's probably a different outcome.
All right. Last but certainly not least, the Bears. They are now 4-3. Trick or treat, Jim?
I think they're a treat. I think they're slowly making progress, what we call incremental progress. I like the tough-mindedness of the coach. They are going to finish stronger. He is going to get this offense corrected, and it will make up for any lack of defensive stoutness that they have. This offense, I've said it the whole offseason, the offense needs to carry the team. Yeah. And so they've got to work out these issues and start to grab the reins of this horse and start to steer it. I believe it's going to happen here pretty soon.
No, I'm right there with
close.
Jim. I think that, listen, today's game is the one time this season where I've criticized some of the play calls of Ben Johnson. On the flip side of that, there's not many times where you can criticize the play calling of Ben Johnson. He's put his guys in a position to be successful. I think over time, as we get to the end of this season, right, we will look back at this Bears offense and say it was much more of a treat than it was a trick. Because remember, Nagy was here year 1 and you got offensive linemen or defensive linemen running in touchdowns. You're trying to pay homage to the fridge. You're running the I formation. That's a lot of tricks. This is good football that we're seeing, and it's just about the players making the right play.
Della, don't let today fool you a little bit because I like to point out, I mean, the Ravens are 1-5, sure, but I mean, this is a team that also knows how to win a lot. But I think this.
That looked like the Ravens defense we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and I think this team is a treat compared to what we've seen the last couple of years.
That's true.
I mean, that's my thing. Everyone want to keep saying, oh, like, let's get that playoff push. Let's think about the playoff picture. But we're not there yet. But just think about what this team is doing in year one of Ben Johnson, where, yeah, there's some undisciplined things. We're starting to see assignments that are missed. But, I mean, right now, like, this team has given Chicago a lot of hope for the future. Like, this is what it looks like in year one where stuff's not coming together. Imagine what it looks like down the line when he can get his hands truly in there and say, this is what we're going to do. We know we can do it, and we've been doing it for years. So the routine is now the routine plays.
Before we send it to break, can I ask you guys at least, do we like candy corn? Yes or no? No?
Yeah.
I'm a candy corn fan.
Okay, we'll talk about
we got to talk about that off air.
All right, we need to take a break. We're going to hear from Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams on the other side. Keep right here and After the Whistle. All right, back here on After the Whistle, Bears fall to the Ravens 30-16, your final score. Let's hear from Ben Johnson right after the game.
All right, here we go. So a number of guys that didn't make it through the end of that one. Dom Robinson had an ankle, Shamar Turner had a knee, Luther Burden had a concussion, and then OZ, we're still taking a look at his knee right there. So that's what we got for injuries. In terms of the game, give Baltimore a lot of credit. You know, they came out and they played a physical brand of football just like you would expect. You know, they were hungry, they were determined, and truth be told, I expected a little bit more out of our squad to counter that on up. So we fell short. You know, it's our first game in a while, really all season, that we didn't have a takeaway. And so when that happens, you really got to play a clean game, and we didn't. You know, we're double digits in penalties once again. We're not scoring in the red zone. You know, we couldn't quite get off the field as often as we'd like on defense. So they had some good drives. I think time of possession wise, they did a nice job controlling the game. And like I said, we fell short. But our guys, we're gonna get this thing cleaned up. I know they understand how important it is that we play cleaner as a team and we complement each phase better than what we did today. And so that'll be our mission here this week. Go ahead and open it up.
then offensively with the inconsistency, what's most urgent to you right now in getting that side of the ball humming a little bit better?
Yeah, I think you see flashes of some explosive plays and some really good things happening. But the penalties to me is what stands out first and foremost. We still have some of the pre-snap issues. There's occasional not getting lined up quite right. There's occasional not getting the motion quite right, and so that stuff it adds up and it hurts us. We get away with it occasionally, but it's just not the way you win in this league. And so I think I really put it on the leaders there in that locker room to get this ship going the right direction in that regard. Us coaches, we've been pounding that drum now for a while, and we haven't gotten the results we wanted. So it's on the leaders here on this team to get us right.
What was your overview at the end of the first half with the intentional grounding, and then you guys had to kind of scramble to get the kickoff?
Yeah, I thought we had a chance there for points before half. We had a good opportunity to do that, and the intentional grounding certainly didn't help. And so now we're in a position 3rd and long with no timeouts, where we know if it's a clock running and we're short of the line to gain, that we'll need to get our hurricane unit out there, our field goal team out there real quick. So I thought the execution of all that was nice, but that's a really long field goal, and so it's a low percentage deal, something that we would like to avoid. So that intentional grounding certainly hurt us.
Did the Ravens and Huntley do anything that you might not have expected, or did they just do it well and it was tough to defend?
Yeah, I thought Coach Monken always does a great job just schematically mixing things up, and like I said before, they play a physical brand of football, and so that showed up. That offensive line was getting after it, and I thought our defensive line, it was quite a battle there throughout the game. We were intent on not letting 22 get started. I thought for the most part we did a pretty good job of that, but then Huntley hurt us with both his arm and his legs. We let him get some big ones on the ground, and then he threw some accurate balls there in the air. And so I think at one point he was like 12 or 13 or something like that coming out of halftime. So, he played really well, and we didn't do enough to affect him.
And what was your vantage point on the interception that Caleb threw there?
I didn't quite see it. I'll have to check it out on film just one more time. Just in my mind, there might have been another option that we could have gotten to.
And any sense of what happened on the last 3 plays of the game? Obviously, you get down there, it's a desperate situation, but you've got a completion short of the goal line, a quarterback sneak, and then a 4th down play.
Yeah, I don't like my call on the quarterback sneak. I could have gotten to something better there. But yeah, we have plays set up to go tempo down there, and I probably didn't do a good enough job in that department.
Did the participation saga with Lamar Jackson, what was your reaction to that both yesterday and as it unfolded?
Yeah, we always prepare for. Like I said earlier in the week, we were preparing for Lamar, and then when we found out that he wasn't playing, then we get ready for the next guy.
Tyler went on IR yesterday. What exactly happened with him throughout the week, and how long term is this?
Yeah, we're hoping it's going to be of the short-term variety, so we should be able to get him back. But yeah, it's another soft tissue injury that we're dealing with.
All right, you just heard from Bears head coach Ben Johnson there. Obviously, he touched on issues in the red zone, the penalties. D-line was a battle there throughout the game. Jim, what did you make of what Ben Johnson had to say?
Well, what I take from it is he said, hey, we've been harping on this as a coaching staff about cleaning things up. He goes, now we need some leaders in this locker room to start, basically upping that tempo. Because, again, if you go back at the look at the start of all their games, they're on point offensively. Granted, they went down the field again today. They settled for a field goal because of the sack, but they're getting chunks. There is a tempo to the offense. There's a rhythm to it. And it seems like those early penalties aren't there on the opening drive. And then after the opening drive, it starts to get fragmented and disjointed where it's not in rhythm. You have a intentional grounding penalty or you have a false start. And then these things start to disrupt the rhythm and the tempo. And that's just another indicator, much like prior to the bye week, that Ben Johnson said, hey, he kind of came down hard on the team. That statement alone in that press conference, well, we need some players in this locker room to start to step up. We've harped on it as a staff. These guys got to start taking it personally. He's putting it on them because that's where it should be.
Yeah, listen, there's only so much that you can do. You can call every play perfectly. You can put every guy in a perfect situation to go out there and find ways to win. At the end of the day, the players are the ones that make the plays look great or look, terrible. And I think right now, especially what you saw in such crucial moments in this game, I love the fact that Ben Johnson not only putting it on the team, but also saying, and at the end of that game, I was confused by the quarterback sneak there. I mean, guess you try and catch him off guard, 50-50 shot. If you get in the end zone, it's fine. But this team just felt disjointed as a whole today, and I think that went down to the play calling. But Caleb, again, we go back to quarterback having opportunity to make plays. The opportunities were there. If Colston lines up and doesn't move and it's not a false start, it's there, right? Like, you have all of these things that you continue to go back on. And I love the fact that Ben Johnson is saying, all right, we got these leaders in the locker room. Hey, it's time to speak up. It's time to step up, because now it's on you guys to go out there and start to get that stuff right.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you talk about that specifically, I think he did a really good job of taking not only his own accountability, but also putting it where it needed to be. Like, you're right, Jim, where, like, this is a team that's got veteran leaders on it. This is a team that went out and got Grady Jarrett. It's got Montez Sweat. It's got DJ Moore. Caleb Williams is a captain for a reason. We have to talk about this team now has to understand it's on us. And the first 7 games, I think it's pretty fair to say, okay, well, what does Ben Johnson have? Like, what has the kid got, Yeah. But we've seen this is a guy that's willing to understand when he's made mistakes, when to kind of rectify them. I mean, that quarterback sneak, I mean, you can look at that and say, well, there's a chance they actually got in the end zone. It's just hard to review that play in that moment. But I think especially this right now, when you look at Ben, he's got to put it where it needs to be. It's on the players, and I think it's on them to respond, especially next week against the Cincinnati team, which is kind of a wild card. You don't really know what you're going to get. It's a lot of offense, not much defense. It's on them to kind of figure it out in the next couple.
Well, even to that point, right? At the end of that game, you don't have a timeout to even challenge that play call. I thought some of the timeout usage in this game was a little bit off. But I think the tough part, moving forward, the part where Ben Johnson's going to have that tough love, the expectation from us, probably the expectation from him is he's going to get his part right. Yeah. He's going to address his play calling issues and say, okay, this is what we need to be. This is what we're comfortable with. This is how we need to go out here and perform to get this win in the next game. Are the penalties going to go away? Because that's something that has not gone away this entire season. And if you're not playing clean football, you're always going to have disjointed football on the field.
One thing we've learned about Ben Johnson, that he's never afraid to be transparent
at all.
about. Yeah. Let's listen in on what Caleb Williams had to say after the game as well.
What is most urgent to you as you walk forward out here?
Penalties and being able to score in the red zone. I think, we get into, those moments, and we're either not scoring and converting in those moments, and we know, that we can. I mean, we could have been up 14 in those first 2 drives we had. I think it was, or first 2 out of 3, or whatever the case may have been, and that would have created a bunch of momentum for us. And I think that's how it's been a good amount of the year, especially these past 2 games, been in the red zone a bunch, and not necessarily being able to punch it in the high red and things like that. So. I think that's the 2 main things that we got to fix, and the guys jumping off sides and those type of things we'll get fixed, and we'll get that fixed and be able to move on from those, and then we just got to execute the plays from there.
What's your read on the interception?
Yeah, it was a good read. Rome man-to-man with the guy that caught the pick, and I just didn't give a good ball to Rome.
There at the end, you get hit on the deep ball to DJ. First of all, you okay?
Yeah, no, we're all good.
Second of all, I mean, and then the series where you sneak and they kind of take a while getting up off you, what could have been done differently there? I know it's at the end in the 14-14.
Yeah, I think just punching it in that situation. And then, right there at the end, it was just me and DJ not being on the same page. I think it was 0. I think I saw. I haven't gone back and watched it yet, but 0 was sitting. Obviously, he was sitting a little bit lower on the front part of the goal line, but I still saw space to the right of him. So I tried to get DJ to try to throw it there, and I think it was just a miscommunication in that situation.
Do you think that the end of the first half drive could have been managed better? I mean, I know there was an intentional grounding, which probably was debatable, and then there were some passes or some completions inbounds. What's your summation of the whole thing?
Yeah, we had 2 timeouts. The intentional grounding just wasn't on the same page with Loveland. I was throwing him breaking out. It was a choice route, so this isn't anything about Loveland and anything like that. We just weren't on the same page. It's a choice route. He has a couple different options to break in, sit, or break out and things like that. And it just wasn't on the same page, and that comes with reps and things like that. So I think that's what it comes down to. I could have gotten out of bounds. Also, if we want to talk about managing and things like that, that's a part of it, is that I could have got out of bounds in that long run to save that second time out, and but that didn't happen. And so I think it just comes down to connecting. I think it comes down to being on the same page and just executing the plays that are called.
Did you just decide in that moment that you could get more yards if you didn't go out of bounds?
Yeah, I thought I could get more if I didn't go out, and I ended up sliding and got up and around midfield.
All right, you just heard from Bears quarterback Caleb Williams there. 25 of 38, threw for 285 yards and an interception today. His 4th of the season. Jim, final thoughts here.
Yeah, just listening to his press conference, there were 4 times he said not on the same page.
Yeah.
Well, if I were him, I would take initiative as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears to make sure that those guys are on your page. Meaning, hey, Loveland, we're in this situation. We're in the red zone where we got to go into the half with a score, meaning minimum a field goal. Your choice route, decide early. I need you to make it quick, all right, because you got to come away in that situation with points. And that's part of becoming a leader. That's part of growing up in the NFL as a quarterback, that you are in charge. You manage all situations. You control all situations. So take charge of the situation. And a lot of that, if he does that, and if he can step up and grow that way, a lot of these false starts, all this stuff will start to eliminate. But he's got to take charge. Don't say we're not on the same page. You tell them what page you want them on as the quarterback, and you'll know you'll be on the same page.
No, 100%. I agree with Jim. Like that's the one thing that stood out to me. You're not on the same page. We're not seeing the same thing. He saw something different. Nobody should be seeing anything different than you're seeing. You are the one that gets the ball to them, right? It's the same thing talking about the center to quarterback exchange last week. It shouldn't be, the center is wrong. The center's never wrong. When you snap the football, the play starts. I get it. It takes time to learn offenses, but being on the same page, whatever your page is, that's the page everybody should be on. You're the one throwing the football.
I think when you come down to this specifically, you got next week, which is going to be a big week to see if we can answer all these questions. The Bengals gave up 39 points to the New York Jets this week. The Bengals
and a win.
What?
And a win. But also at the end of the day, the Bengals might be without Trey Hendrickson. There's going to be so many opportunities for Caleb in this offense to get right. Put up or shut up.
All right, that will do it for us here on After the Whistle. Tina Nguyen, Pat the Designer, Chris Krasinski, and Jim Miller. Still no candy corn fans here?
No candy corn.
It's just me?
We're good.
It's just me?
It's just you.
It's just me. All right, we'll see you here next Sunday, same time. Thanks for sticking with us here on After the Whistle.